Hello, my name is Dan, aka Dansky, and in this video tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to draw 8 music-related vector icons in Adobe Illustrator CC. So I'm going to start with my list. These are the icons that I'm going to be producing, and it's always a good idea to have a brainstorm before you start and to think about how you want each icon to look. So I've already had a think, and I want these icons to be quite linear, and I would like them to be in circles. So that's our list. Let's get started. So I'm going to start by just drawing a circle basically, and click here to swap the fill and the stroke so I get a nice outline, and I'm probably just going to bump that up to 3 points for the time being, and I'm going to drag that across holding Alt and Shift if you're on a Mac and let go, and then if I click Apple and D, it will then repeat that last action, and I'm going to do that until I've got all 8. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is select all 8 circles very slowly, and then go to my layers palette, and I'm just going to lock this layer, and I'm going to call it circles, just to be original, and I'm going to create a new layer and then just drag that underneath, and then what I'm doing is when I'm actually drawing my icons I can see how they're going to look within the circles, so it just gives me a better idea of what they'll look like at the end. So the first one on the list was play, so I'm going to go to the shape tool and select polygon, and if you click, single left click, you'll get this dialog box come up, and you can just type in 3, so you have 3 sides, and of course you get a triangle. Then if you select the rotate tool and hold shift, you can rotate, and it will rotate, holding shift it will rotate within 45-degree increments. So that's fine. I'm just going to pop that just roughly in the middle there. I can play around with the size later. So that's pretty straightforward. That is a pretty standard play button. So the next one is going to be a volume button. So I'm going to get my line tool selected and just drag straight up. And it's remembered the 3-point stroke width that I've previously selected. So I'm just going to drag this along, and again I'm going to hold Alt and Shift as I drag, so then I can click Apple or Command D, and it will just repeat that last action. And then what I'm going to do is just select the direct selection tool up here and just adjust these a little bit so it looks a little bit more volume related. And again, we can adjust the positioning after. So next, I've got a mute button. Now, how do I want this to look? I think for this one, so what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to select the rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle like this, and then I'm going to select the pen tool and just draw how I want this speaker to look, like so. So I've now got these 2 shapes. I've got the rectangle, and then I've got the main part of the speaker. And again, I can use the direct selection tool just to tap all the anchor points into place, like so. And I can adjust the size and position. And then I can just again drag these anchor points, and they will snap. If you've got your smart guides turned on in Illustrator, they'll snap to the different anchor points, which is really helpful. And what I'm going to do this very rough for now, is get the line tool and just draw a strike through it. Like so. So it's going to look something like this. Next we're going to move on to a CD or a disc. And this is going to be quite straightforward. I'm going to get the shape tool and select ellipse. Let's draw a circle. Then I'm going to go copy and paste in place. So it will paste a copy of this circle in exactly the same place. And then I'm going to select the scale tool. And just holding shift, I'm just going to drag that down just a little bit. Like this, and then I'm going to do exactly the same again. So copy, paste in place, and I'm going to just hold shift and drag that down again. And then what I'm going to do right at the end is just swap the fill and the stroke. So it just fills that in. And actually looking at that, I would say that looks more like a speaker. So actually what I'm going to do is go back, swap the fill and the stroke back out, and just pop that back up to 3 points in width. And then I think get rid of this inside one and just reverse this one instead. And then make this middle one, if you come up to your swatch palette on the right, and just make that white. I think that looks a little bit more representative of a CD. And actually what we can do is copy, paste this, hold shift with the scale tool just to drag that in again, and actually swap the fill and the stroke and then make that white perhaps. I think that probably creates a better visual of a CD. Okay, so next we're going to move on to a music note. So I'm going to get my ellipse tool up here, draw a shape something like this, I think. Make sure your stroke is selected as black and just knock that up to 3 points. And then I'm going to get my line tool and just click on this anchor point. No, click and drag on this anchor point straight up like that. And actually you can use the pen tool for this, which may even be easier. So clicking the pen tool, you can just click on this anchor point, draw a shape similar to this, and then hold shift and drag straight down. And then I'm going to copy this circle and paste in place. Nope, it's not a circle, the ellipse. And I think I'm going to then just angle that with the rotate tool. So just angle that a little bit like this. Just drag it back so it lines up nicely. For some of these you might have to zoom in quite far just to get everything to line up. And sometimes the smart guys won't always line up exactly, so you may have to switch them off and do it by eye, but that's fine. Okay, so that'll do for now, and I can come back and polish that up later. So actually what I want to do now is I want to get rid of this ellipse, copy this one, now I've angled it correctly, paste in place, and then use this one instead. So our music notes will look something like that. And I'm probably going to bring this down a bit actually. Just so it's not as wide. Like that. Next we've got the microphone. So for this, again, I'm going to get the line tool, draw a vertical line. I'm going to select the ellipse tool, and I'm going to hold shift and draw a perfect circle. And then using the direct select tool, I'm going to take out the top anchor point, which leaves me with this, and just drag this onto here, and it should, with the smart guides, snap to the center. Now that's probably a bit big, so I'm just going to, using the scale tool, just bring that down again, and the direct select tool just to bring that up. And then what I'm going to do is, you can use the rounded rectangle tool, but personally I prefer the rectangle tool because you can draw a square-edged rectangle, and then you can go up to Effects, Stylize, Round Corners, and then you can control the radius. So there may be another way to do it with a rounded rectangle, but this is the way that I prefer to do it. And I'm just going to increase that until I get a shape like this. Just snap that to the middle again. So there's our microphone icon. And second to last, I'm going to do a playlist icon. So with our line tool, I'm just quite simply just going to draw some lines, and then dragging them with Alt and Shift both held, and then pressing Command D on the Mac. I'm just going to make copies of those, so I get 4 lines like this. And I'm probably going to space those out a little bit more. And if you select all of your lines and then go, it's usually up here at the top, but you can have it set in your palette on the right. You can go to the Align palette, and here you can distribute the vertical space evenly between all 4 of these lines. So if you click this one in the middle, you'll see that the space is now equal between each one. And this is really important when doing any professional work, just to have that level of accuracy, lining things up that should be aligned. Okay, so we've got these 4, and I think on the end I'm just going to have some little circles to represent something. So I'm just going to draw some circles in, swap the fill and the stroke like so, and just check it all lines up. And then I'm just going to drag these down, and you'll see it snaps with the smart guide, so it knows roughly what I'm trying to line up with what. Okay, for the last one, I'm going to do some headphones. So for this, I'm going to select my ellipse tool. I'm going to draw a perfect circle holding shift, and then swap the fill and the stroke, and increase that width to 3 points. And then what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to go to Object, Expand, and just check that stroke is selected here, and that will convert it from a stroke into a shape. So it's no longer an outline. So what I can do now is I can select the rectangle tool. I can decide where I'd like to cut it off at the bottom, and just drag a shape over the bottom like this, and make sure the shape is on top. And if I select both of them and go to the Pathfinder palette on the right, and then go to minus front, it will subtract this shape from the shape above. So now I'm left with this. And what I'm going to do here, I think I'm going to select the rectangle tool and just draw the other part of the headphones. Now I would like part of these to be rounded, so I'm going to round off these corners, but I only want them rounded off on one side. So I'm going to take that to 3mm. I'm just going to adjust the width. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Object, Expand Appearance, and what this will do was it will forget that this was a rectangle I chose to round, and it is now just any old shape. So what I can do is I can select these anchor points, these two here, and I can select one of these, or both, it doesn't matter, and I can click horizontal align left and it will snap them to there. Now obviously I want this line to be straight, so if I just click anywhere along here and holding shift move this handle, it will snap those lines in place. So there we have my headphone, and using the direct select tool I can select all of these and just nudge them using the arrow keys, just nudge them to get the right sort of width. And what I'm going to do now is just position this how I'd like it. And you can see this doesn't quite line up, so I'm going to need to curve this slightly. So if I go to Object, Envelope, Distort and Make with Warp, what I can do is if I put this on 0, very slowly just drag this bend to the left, and you can see it just starts to bend it a little bit. And there's a few different options here that you can play with that give you slightly different effects. But for now I'm just going to use this one just to give it a very slight bend. So I think minus 10%. And you can see now it's got these guides over it from where I've created the warp effect, and if I click that and go to Object, Expand and tick Object and Fill, it will now render this as an object rather than something that I've adjusted. So I'm fairly happy with that. So I'm going to click this, copy, paste in place, hold shift to drag it across, and then going Object, Transform and Reflect at the top and making sure vertical is selected. Clicking OK, we'll just flip that along a vertical axis. And then I can just drag this into place like so. So now what I'm going to do is just quickly go through and adjust the size and polish these up a little bit. So we've now got all 8 of our icons more or less finished and tidied up. So what we're going to do now is convert all these outlines into just shapes in Illustrator. So if we select all of them and go Object, Expand, and just expand everything. So now these are no longer outlines, they are all shapes. And what we can do is we can start to add a little bit of colour, if you like. I'm going to in this one, just for this tutorial. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool and create a rectangle that is the size of my canvas. And I'm going to fill it with 5% black. And then go to Object, Arrange, and send it to the back. And then Object Lock, and then lock that selection. So the background is locked, so it's not going to interfere with anything while I'm moving icons around. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define the black colour for these. That's just a slightly off black, more a charcoal colour. And now I'm going to unselect the lock on my circles layer, so I can select these. I can go Object, Expand, so the outlines are no longer outlines, they become shapes, and then I can fill those with my new black, my charcoal colour. and just go through. So as you can see here, this has still got the white outline on it. So what I'm going to do is get the direct selection tool, click inside of here, and then edit, cut, and paste in place. So now it's separate from this stripe going through the speaker. Then what I'm going to do is select this white and the speaker shape itself, and go to your Pathfinder palette, and then click minus front to subtract it from that. So you can see it's now cut into the speaker shape itself. So we're going to then select that and go edit, cut. And then we're going to go back a few steps. So if we go edit, undo, or Command Z, just go back a few steps so we've got the white back. And then get rid of this shape here in the background. And then go edit, paste in place. So we've now got the white and the black. So if we select both and then click minus front, it will just take that away. Okay. That one's fine. Probably just going to bring this middle circle. That's fine. The music one is fine. So I'm just going through and just adding in the charcoal color, as I'm now calling it. So anything that you see that is black, just switch it to this color, or whichever color you like. Sometimes it's good to use bright colors when you're doing sort of fine detail on work like this, so you can see the clear difference between black and a slightly off black color. So you can use yellow and red, and then once you've finished and you're happy with your work, you can then change them to the colors up in the swatch palette, and that will affect every instance in your document, which is quite handy. Okay, so we've now coloured all of these. Now what I'm going to do is select each one individually. I'm going to go to Object, Group, and just go through and group each shape, like so. Then I'm going to go to the Layers palette. I'm going to select both layers with Shift and a left click. Go up to this menu here and then just go Merge Selected, so it all becomes one layer. And I'm going to name that layer Default. And if you like, you can give your layer a colour by double clicking on it. And I'm going to select teal, I think. And then lastly, what I'm going to do, just to finish this off, is just select these four on the left and then group those and just drag them up here like this. This is just handy if you're presenting a set of icons as a set to someone or a client, and you may not want to present, if you have 20 icons for example, you may not want to present all 20 in a single line. You might want to stack them in rows and columns. And there you go. That's how you draw 8 music related icons in Adobe Illustrator CC. If you enjoyed watching this video or it was helpful, please feel free to let me know by leaving a like below, or if you've got any questions you can send me a message or let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to help out. Okay, thanks for watching, see you in the next video. Bye!